Hi there to all of you viewers of Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the news. Our major stories this evening: Catholic bishops of Cameroon have once again put forward the misery and difficulties Cameroonians are going through to the appropriate authority. This was during a visit of a delegation of 7 Roman Catholic bishops that was to the Unity Palace today. His Grace Andrew Nkea, President of the National Episcopal Conference of Cameroon, alongside his bishops, discussed with Ferdinand Gongo on the necessity to avoid violence before, during and after the presidential election in the country. Details of that meeting at the Unity Palace between Ferdinand Gongo and members of the National Episcopal Conference that would be in this edition of the news. And also in this edition, insecurity is taking a high toll here in the economic capital, Douala, as fake police officers have been arrested here in the economic capital by military men. They were picked up in the Douala 5 area recently. Details also in this news edition. And the Prime Minister announces a next population census in Cameroon in the year 2026. How has the absence of a national population census been affecting state affairs in the country? A reporter for me, Armstrong Sander, attempts an answer with analysts in this news edition. Viewers, those are our lead stories. Details and more when we come back. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for being with us. We told you in the headlines that 7 bishops of the Roman Catholic Church today met with Ferdinand Gongo that was at the Unity Palace earlier today. Ferdinand Gongo, who is the Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, received the bishops of the Roman Catholic Church. We are expecting to have the images on our screens. The 7 bishops included the Secretary General of the National Episcopal Conference, Monsignor Paul Nyaga, the bishops led by the President of the National Episcopal Conference, His Lordship Andrew Nkea as the Archbishop of the Bamenda Archdiocese, say the visit was to ensure that there is peace before, during and after the presidential election in Cameroon. They say the Catholic Church is not partisan. However, the Church and its leaders deal every day with Christians who are also Cameroonians. So the bishops used the meeting with Ferdinand Gongo to express some of the so many problems, the misery which Cameroonians are living in at the moment. His Grace Andrew Nkea, while talking to reporters in Yaoundé after that audience, says he hopes that Ferdinand Gongo will transmit the message of the bishops to the head of state, President Paul Biya, who mandated him to receive the bishops at the Unity Palace. Just to mention that before the bishops, some traditional authorities from the northwest and southwest regions and also from the west region were also received by Ferdinand Gongo at the Unity Palace. We will be telling you more about that audience in subsequent news editions. Over to something else. 2 individuals disguised as military men were arrested by police officers in the Bonamusadi neighborhood in the Douala 5 subdivision. The 2 fake lieutenants were specialized in fraud and attack on motorbike riders. Cedric Chakutio tells us more.
2 individuals aged between 30 and 34 were apprehended by the elements of the anti-crime brigade around Bonamusadi in the Douala 5 subdivision. The suspects, disguised to military officers wearing their attires and using military equipment to carry out attacks on motorbike riders and residents of the locality.
A team of our division's anti-crime brigade arrested 2 individuals in Bonamusadi neighborhood, one of whom was illegally wearing a military attire. Identified these 2 individuals as having a habit of committing aggravated theft with this equipment. In addition to the military uniform, we seized a fake weapon, an Ivor Johnson automatic pistol, as well as magazine, 2 5.56mm rounds of ammunition, a bayonet knife, corporals, epaulet, and several military items.
According to reports, the 2 men got the military equipment through a friend of theirs who once worked as a military officer.
The military equipment seized in their possession belonged to one of their friends, a professional soldier who is currently in pretrial detention at the Douala New Bell Central prison. These individuals and the equipment seized will be brought before the government commissioner at the Douala military court.
While investigations are ongoing to track down other mates, Police Commissioner Isone Edu Arsen, Chief of Services Research and Investigation Unit RDGP Littoral, calls on the population to denounce these acts and to be vigilant.
In other news, we told you in the headlines that the Prime Minister, head of government, has announced that the next population census in Cameroon begins in the year 2026, that will be next year. And despite the strategic importance of accurate demographic statistics in the policy planning and implementation of a nation, the announced population census of 2026 is already being criticized by economic experts who cast doubt on the adopted methodology and it's possible to produce accurate results. The length of time taken to engage a population census also poses a problem to Cameroonians and experts who regret that government policies within the decades have hardly been implemented. For me, Anton Sander tells us more.
The essence of a population census lies in the strategic importance of accurate demographic statistics in the socio-economic and political policy planning and implementation in a nation.
So it is crucial and vital that you know how many people you are working for before defining any policy, be it in terms of infrastructure development, be it in terms of human development. Because if you do not know the number of population, how do you define policy that will help you for the public resource collection? It means you don't know the number of people from who you are going to collect the resources. And how do you affect these resources rationally if you do not know the number of people you are going to affect this resource to?
After 1976 and 1987, Cameroon's last population census was done in 2005, giving a more than 21 years gap, a double 10 years gap that cast doubt on the accuracy and effectiveness of public policies initiated within this period.
We have been working on speculation. That's why whenever we are talking about demography, we're talking in terms of approximately. Every year we say we are approximately 20 million, 25 million, some even go up to 30 or 35 million, simply because we don't have accurate data in terms of demography in Cameroon. That is why when you go to certain region, for instance, you enter a particular class, you will see that we have 200 students in a particular class. We have 120 students in a particular classroom, simply because as long as we do not know how many people are in that particular region, we cannot plan to build new school, we cannot plan to build new hospital or new basic infrastructure or new roads or whatsoever. All the basic infrastructure, we cannot plan to build them if we don't know how progressive the demography of this particular region or this particular area is.
The announced headcount of 2026 also does not seem promising, as economic experts say that the operational method adopted is archaic with no guarantee of accuracy.
Today, we are talking of more than 30 million people. How do you figure out that you will count 30 million people manually? No. Statistics begins in the hospital and ends in the hospital.
He suggests that the Central Bureau of Census and Population Studies develops a digital database with focal points in all the hospitals and civil status centers across Cameroon where births and deaths are recorded. This, according to him, will give an automatic digital update on the demographic evolution of Cameroon.
And now, talking about having a strong coalition opposition in Cameroon, there are visible signs of a possible come together between Issa Chiruma Bakari and Bello Buba Maigari, both presidential candidates have met on several occasions, giving signals of discussions towards a unique candidate from the northern part of the country. Babila Jonathan reports.
They are both former Cameroon government ministers who recently resigned and declared their candidacy for the October 12 presidential election. Both from the North region, Issa Chiruma Bakari and Bello Buba Maigari have a similar political trajectory from the opposition through a 3-decade collaboration with the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM, and back to the opposition. The two politicians are at the center of one of the possible lines of an opposition coalition to unseat the 4-decade-old CPDM regime.
Buba Bello and Issa Chiruma can agree to present a candidate. So I think that the North stands a better position to rally the South. And if they do that, it will be wonderful.
I think because they pray and eat together, it's most likely that they can understand each other. I think Issa Chiroma came out of the ribs of Buba Bello. So Buba Bello can easily put back his ribs. They can easily overcome their difficulties and mend fences, and then bring on the other people to join them. If they can do that, fair and good. But like we said, it goes with a cost.
However, political, ideological, and differences in strategy are obstacles they must deal with.
They all have their weaknesses, and when you put those weaknesses together, I don't see how they're going to overcome those weaknesses. Their strengths are not very much. People can vote for them based on emotions, but for instance, if Buba Bello were to be the president, I asked you what are the strengths of Buba Bello to solve which problem, you will not be able to tell me. If let's say I woke you from sleep and asked you what are the strengths of Muna to solve a problem, you would quickly say that he will fight corruption and he would manage a justice system.
Should a Chiruma Bello, or better still, Cameroon National Salvation Front and National Union for Democracy and Progress coalition prosper, it is seen by some analysts as a major game changer.
Civil society actors have criticized the persistent arrest and judgment of civilians in military courts for minor offenses committed. They described the recent arrest and presentation of 28 civilians before judges of the Yaoundé military court after the verdict of the Constitutional Council on Professor Maurice Kamto's appeal as incomprehensible, undermining the role of civilian courts. Innocent Azet tells us more.
The presentation of over 28 citizens arrested by security forces at the closing of the Constitutional Council litigation before the Yaoundé military court is deemed insanity by civil society actors.
Our authorities now, especially public authorities, are beginning to behave like the mystical order in the Juju in the order of Nantangyo in my native village, where it gives the same punishment to everybody. Somebody that steals 25 rounds is given a death sentence like somebody who kills another person. So it's like there are no distinction between a common crime, a civil crime, and a military offense.
For the fact they were being detained, taken to the military court, it was somehow so bad, so unjust, so brutal, making us think that we are being ruled by tyrannical rulers. And this one, they were shipping there to show your love, taken to the military court, wasn't fair. I don't condone with this.
Both Colbert Gwain and Bo Dennis Kuma regards these acts as abuse to democracy, as the washing into the sea acquired democratic values inherited back in 1990.
This actually undoes or rolls back all the democratic gains that we have seen in 1990, because civic space in Cameroon has been rolled back, political space is shrinking, and even as we are running up to elections, online space is also being targeted. And so it looks like we are actually in a police state now where there is a beautiful marriage between the military and the political leaders who are seeking for re-election. So it's rather unfortunate that what has happened under the rule of Hosni Mubarak in Egypt is beginning to happen here, where mere protesters are taken to military courts and everybody is considered a subversive element.
We know a democratic country is a country whereby citizens are being allowed to carry out their demonstrations, given the fact that align with the laws of the country. This was the same, but of which they were usually arrested and detained, which is very bad.
Even though the degree of fear is high, such repression on civilians will persist and aggravate, particularly after election.
This is a trend we will see until after presidential elections. It's just the beginning, because dictatorial regimes, dictatorial bigots have the same playbook around the whole world. They start with this, so actually indicating to us that things will be harder for anybody that wants to express an opinion that are different from the one that the government in place, especially the CBDM regime, holds.
I pray that let the government try to change their system of doing things so that all ourselves will be happy to see Cameroon change and become the Eldorado that wants.
Expectation is to see the Bia regime choose repentance and the people governed fairly, especially as the presidential election draws near.
Now let's talk health. The Measles outbreak response vaccination campaign began today across 5 regions of Cameroon. This campaign targets children aged 9 months and 9 years and aims to curb the outbreak of the disease, which is transmitted through airborne respiratory droplets released when an infected person coughs or sneezes. The immunization campaign commenced in Douala at the Logbaba and Cité de Palmier Health District. Lucy Liengu is here, was there, and now reports.
At the Logbaba District Hospital, 9-year-old Daniela is among the children who were accompanied by their parents on day one to receive their measles vaccines.
Je me suis fait vacciner pour ne pas avoir la rougeole pendant les classes.
Measles is a highly contagious disease caused by a virus that spreads easily via an infected person.
Measles is a viral transmitted disease that can affect everybody, particularly children less than 5 years old. It is transmitted during a person sneezes or cough.
In an effort to address a measles outbreak in 9 health districts, including the Logbaba and Cité de Palmier health districts, the Ministry of Public Health launched a measles outbreak response vaccination campaign.
From today to Sunday, we have 92,000 children aged 9 months to 9 years to vaccinate against measles and rubella. And the aim is to cover these children so that to prevent more cases coming up and to stop the epidemic in the Logbaba Health District.
The symptoms of measles include high fever, cough, runny nose, and a spotty rash all over the body. The disease can also lead to life-threatening complications such as...
The better way to prevent remains vaccinations, because if you are a child or any person who is suffering from measles, you can have pneumonia, lungs infections, you can also have otitis, you can also become blind without seeing.
According to PEV Cameroon, the vaccine is free and will be administered from August 13th to the 17th in the center, east, littoral, north, and southwest regions. As the new academic year approaches, parents are advised to vaccinate their children to reduce the spread of measles in Cameroon.
And now let's talk about the International Day for Indigenous Populations. The Mbororo community in the Ndonga Mantung division of the Northwest region say their main challenge is a non-respect of their rights as citizens of the country and the fact that they are excluded from decision-making processes. The people raised this problem or complained in the course of an event that was on August 9, marking the International Day of the World Indigenous People. Mala Glory with details.
The event that took place at the Nkambe Community Hall, celebrating the International Day of the World's Indigenous People, brought together the Mbororo people from Bui Division and other parts of Donga Mantung in the Northwest region.
The World's Indigenous People to be observed on 9th August each year.
The event permitted the regional president of the Mboro community, Boskuida Northwest, Barrister Onusa Karimo, to highlight challenges they face, which includes difficulties in acquiring land titles, limited access to basic infrastructure, and exclusion from decision-making processes. However, Mr. Cham Gilbert, Divisional Delegate of Agriculture and Rural Development, encouraged the natives to embrace agriculture for the growth of the community.
So that we work together and see say agriculture being part and parcel of our activity.
It was a landmark event as it was the first time that the International Day of the World's Indigenous People was observed in the Donga Mantum Division. The divisional officer from Nkambe expressed gratitude to the Mboro community for their massive turnout and reassured them of their rights.
Fulani and other tribes will live together, continue to live together with the same and equal rights. I was also surprised to see many Fulanis there coming singing a national anthem in English.
It was celebrated under the theme Indigenous People and AI, Defending Rights, Shaping Futures, resonate deeply with the attendees. The occasion was also graced with vibrant cultural activities of the Mbororo people.
Now let's tell you how Cameroon is faring today in just a moment. In our series today, we take you to the Sanaga Maritime Division of the Littoral Region in Malima. Malima, a village in the Sanaga Maritime Division of the Littoral. The people there are sending out a cry of distress to top officials of the country. Besides the absence of accessible road network, the village lacks a trained professional medical doctor, though it has a newly constructed health center. The inhabitants are now forced to pay 2,000 francs CFA to Muanko whenever they fall ill. On this edition, our reporter Smajikan Gabriel takes us to the Malima village, which is in need of urgent intervention from the government.
Heading to Malima, a locality in the Sanaga Maritime Division, wasn't an easy one, as on the way we met several heaps of ground deposited on the road, which is in bad shape. In Malima, precisely at Molongo village, we met a calm environment. Malima, where you are found today, is made up of 4 neighborhoods: Molongo, Malbenge, Maljedu, and Boongo. Though calm, the people are going through a lot. Karin Siliki, a native of Molongo village, narrates their ordeal when they fall sick. There is a health center which has never opened its doors for years now because the doctor is not around. We are obliged to treat ourselves in Muanko. We are suffering. As we made our move to discover the health center of Molongo, the entire road was covered by grown grass. Again, we met another native of Molongo who is so much disturbed about their situation. My little girl who was pregnant almost died, but I was forced to go see a woman who helped me since we don't have a doctor or a health center. People die here because of the lack of doctors. We are virtually blocked here because in the other villages, health centers are there in the heart of grown grass. After several hours of work, we discovered a newly built structure which we are told is the health center of Molongo. The health center had brand new materials, but unfortunately, since its construction, no medical practitioner has passed there as it has been abandoned in the bush. We were lucky to meet David and daughter who were returning from the farm. We are very disappointed and disturbed about the health center because it was constructed to help the people of Malima, but we have not seen a medical practitioner here. It's covered by grass now, and no health expert can work in this condition. When we have headache, malaria, we don't know where to go to. Thinking of going to Muanko too, the distance is very long, particularly when it's rainy. No way from Malima. I have written to local authorities, but no response. While waiting, David and daughter, just like other inhabitants of Molongo, will continue braving the odds to Muanko for their health. As the sun set, we saw a building which is partially destroyed. We were told it is government primary school of Molongo. Roofs taken off, classes like haunted homes in horror movies. It was just one building which was still in good shape. The natives think they have been forgotten. I am requesting local authorities not to turn their back against us because we are also Cameroonians and we wish to be like others, particularly in the health domain. Notwithstanding the problems, life still goes on history in Malima, but not all is good in the village.
And now let's move on to news out of our national frontiers. We make a stop first at Sao Vicente, where a state of emergency has been declared in that country, an island in Cape Verde, after floods killed at least 8 people there. And over to Mali, where former PM Shogel Kokaila Maigam was taken into custody on corruption accusations after criticizing the military regime in Benin. The electoral calendar has also been published. Let's now have a roundup of the stories and even more with Immaculate Fogwe.
The Cape Verdean government has declared a state of emergency on the island of Sao Vicente and Sao Atao, where heavy rains and flooding have left 8 people dead and caused significant material damage. The state of emergency is meant to activate the National Emergency Fund to repair damage to roads, streets and other infrastructure and to assist people in difficult situations due to the bad weather. According to Interior Administration Minister, the area was hit by a violent thunderstorm in just over 2.5 hours. The minister did not rule out the possibility of a higher death toll as some people remain missing. Meantime, former Malian Prime Minister Shogel Kokala Maiga was taken into custody on Tuesday on accusations of corruption. Maiga's lawyer, Sheikh Umar Kunari, said the former prime minister was taken in for questioning earlier this month by the National Economic and Financial Unit, which is responsible for fighting corruption, as part of an investigation to the allegations of misuse of public property. In November 2024, Maiga was dismissed from his role as prime minister. Days after, he criticized the military regime for postponing elections. Following his dismissal, Maiga continued to criticize the military regime in the media. Earlier this month, another former prime minister, Musa Mara, was imprisoned after tweeting his support for jailed critics of the ruling military junta. In Benin, the National Autonomous Electoral Commission, SENA, published the electoral calendar for the 2026 elections on Monday. The election marked the end of President Patrice Talon's 2 terms allowed by the Constitution. The opposition has expressed concerns about the electoral code's requirements, particularly the sponsorship rules. They equally fear potential maneuvers to exclude certain political actors from the electoral process, referencing the 2019 legislative elections where opposition parties were excluded.
Thank you, Immaculate, for bringing that report. Brings us to the end of this edition of the news. Thank you, viewers, for always being there. Our programs continue tonight. Equinoxe comes up in about 30 minutes or so, and the news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.